Dear Radiant Leo, something big is coming. Not by chance, but by design. The universe has been quietly aligning timelines, people, and opportunities in your favor, and now, in this sacred window from July 26th to 28th, a destined offer is making its way to you. This message, this video, this moment. None of it is random. It's fate. This is your invitation not to prove your worth, but to remember it. Not to fight for a seat at the table, but to reclaim the throne that's always been yours. You've been guided here for a reason. Maybe you felt the inner pull. Maybe the title stopped you in your tracks. Either way, something in your soul recognized the frequency of this message. And that's how destiny works, not always loud, but always precise. In the next few minutes, we'll explore the celestial alignment that surrounds you, decode the tarot symbols speaking directly to your situation, and connect the signs that confirm what your intuition already knows. Your life is about to change beautifully, boldly, and irreversibly. This is not just about astrology. It's about alignment. This is not just a reading. It's a spiritual activation. In the next 72 hours, the energy around you is electric. What's coming is a golden doorway, whether it arrives as a life-changing conversation, an unexpected message, a long-awaited opportunity, or a divine spark that reignites your purpose. And it all begins with your decision to say, "Yes, I'm ready." So before we dive deeper, take a breath. Feel the energy in your chest. You are not late. You are not behind. You are exactly where you need to be to receive what was always meant for you. Let me also take a moment to say thank you from the depths of my being for showing up. Every like, every comment, every subscription brings your energy into deeper resonance with the eternal mindfulness community. Your presence here isn't just noticed, it's honored. Your support fuels this space and allows us to continue delivering these transformative messages for those who are truly ready. And trust me, Leo, you'll want to stay with me until the very end of this message. Because what the universe is revealing is nothing short of extraordinary. The offer approaching your path is not an accident. It's a reward for the fires you've walked through, the shadows you've faced, and the loyalty you've shown to your growth. Now, I have to ask, what was it, Leo, that drew you here today? Was it the sense that change is coming? Was it the quiet knowing in your chest that this time, it's finally your turn? Let me know in the comments below. Type the phrase, "I'm ready to receive what is destined for me." This isn't just a comment, it's a signal to the universe. It's you stepping forward. Now shall we open that door together? ChatGPT.noi. Leo, in this moment between moments, you're standing at the threshold of something greater than a simple event. What's unfolding is not just a shift in circumstance, it's a shift in frequency. The days between July 26th and 28th form a sacred opening, a liminal space where energy becomes more fluid, where choice and clarity converge. As the full moon leaves Aquarius and begins its descent into Pisces, something begins to soften in you. The mind, once preoccupied with plans, strategy, and control, is now invited to surrender, to feel, to release. There's a stillness here, but it is not empty, it is full of meaning. This is the quiet before a long-awaited yes, the breath before the leap. The moon's passage into Pisces asks you to open not just your calendar or your ambition, but your heart. This transition doesn't force you into movement, it invites you into alignment. When Venus stations in Leo during this same window, something deep within you begins to hum with recognition. The part of you that once waited for permission to shine no longer seeks approval. There's a natural magnetism rising now, not because you chased it but because you stopped chasing and started remembering. Here enters the Strength card, not as a declaration of force, but as a quiet knowing. Real strength is not in the roar, but in the steady breath behind the silence. It is the capacity to walk through the fire without needing to prove that you survived. It is the softness you've allowed yourself after years of effort. It is the pause between reaction and response, the grace of restraint, the dignity of inner resolve. And this month, it asks you one essential thing. Do you trust yourself enough to stop resisting the arrival of the life you actually want? In seasons past, you may have mistaken stillness for stagnation. You may have thought that because nothing was happening on the outside, nothing was changing on the inside. But here's the deeper truth. What you've been doing in silence, the small courageous acts, the habits rebuilt, the patience you've cultivated, it all matters. In this energy, cause and effect are no longer bound by linear time. That quiet work is now magnetizing something toward you. A person. A conversation. A proposal. And you'll recognize it not because it's grand, but because it will feel like it belongs. And yet, even in this moment of expansion, fear may visit. That's natural. Fear loves to sit at the doorway of destiny. It's how you know the door is real. So if your hands shake, let them shake. If your heart beats faster, it means you're alive. The question is not whether you're afraid. The question is whether you're willing to keep walking anyway. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is nothing loud but simply not turn away. There's a story, told without words, about a traveler who arrived at a river and waited for the waters to part. But nothing moved. And then one day, instead of demanding the river change, the traveler simply took one step forward and the current carried them. That's what this season is offering you. Not a guarantee. Not a blueprint. But an opening. A current. A choice. This is a moment for quiet power. For not needing to rush into your next version, but to step into it consciously. You are not becoming someone new, you are becoming more of who you truly are. That is the real gift of strength. And it doesn't require applause. Only honesty. So ask yourself gently, am I the one standing in my way? Or am I finally ready to let the gates open? Because Leo, they already have. What if the opportunity you've been waiting for isn't waiting for you but watching you? Watching how you rise each morning despite uncertainty. Watching how you still show up even when no applause follows. Watching how you quietly build, even when results don't arrive on your timeline. Between July and now, your persistence has not gone unnoticed. And now, the energy is shifting. What once felt distant is circling back. Not as a miracle, but as a response. In this season, your discipline is becoming momentum. Your quiet effort is being transmuted into visible movement. And your inner clarity is calling forward something undeniable. The Ace of Wands appears not as a flash of luck, but as a signal that your energy has ripened. It represents a door opening, one that leads to something creative, fresh, and charged with the kind of enthusiasm that makes your spirit lean forward. This could arrive in the form of a job offer, a collaborative proposal, a project that sets your soul ablaze, or even a moment of deep intuitive clarity that says, "This is where I need to go next." But here's what makes it powerful: it doesn't come to fill a void. It comes because you've cleared one. The Eight of Pentacles speaks to the unseen hours you've poured into becoming who you are today. This card doesn't celebrate grand gestures. It honors consistency, craft, and commitment. You may not have known it, but the way you've shown up even when no one was watching became a kind of prayer. And the answer to that prayer is now taking shape. It may arrive as a conversation that leads to a contract. It may be a yes from someone who once said no. It may be a sudden realization that you're ready to take the leap you once feared. But it will feel earned, and more importantly, it will feel right. Then comes the Six of Wands, not just recognition from others, but a reflection of how far you've come. This is the moment you step into visibility. Not because you need to be seen, but because you're no longer hiding. Your voice, your talent, your presence, they're being invited into a bigger room. But remember, this isn't about ego. It's about embodiment. When you stop waiting to be ready, and start acting as though you already belong, you shift the way the world responds to you. Your frequency changes the field around you. And the opportunities that once felt like wishful thinking begin to look you in the eye. This is also the perfect moment to revisit your financial patterns. Are you investing time, energy, or resources into things that don't align with where you're going? What you water will grow, so be mindful of where your emotional currency flows. Refine your financial intentions not with fear, but with clarity. Don't cut back to survive. Choose to redirect in order to thrive. In your work life, you're being called to show up as if the offer has already been made. Don't wait for the title to act like a leader. Don't wait for permission to share your voice. The universe responds to embodiment, not hesitation. So take the next step boldly, even if your voice trembles. And if you're feeling the subtle signs of something or someone approaching your path, trust it. Maybe it's a message, a job, a creative partner, a long-held vision starting to take shape. If you feel it, name it. Speak it. Declare it. Leave a comment below that simply says, "I am open, and I am worthy." That one sentence can shift something in your field. This isn't about chasing what's coming. It's about being available when it arrives. Because Leo, it's already on the way. When it comes to matters of the heart, what often hurts us is not the presence of another but the story we've attached to love itself. And in this chapter of your journey, something deeper is being revealed. The presence of the star signals not only healing, but a sacred return to emotional truth. This card doesn't announce someone else's arrival as much as it invites your own. It whispers that now is the time to reclaim the parts of yourself you once handed away too easily: your voice, your softness, your knowing. It tells you that healing isn't about forgetting what hurt, but remembering who you were before the hurt occurred. This is a window of emotional alignment where what you attract is no longer determined by the ache of what you lost, but by the clarity of what you're ready to receive. And that is what changes everything. The people who appear in this season, whether old connections resurfacing or new ones being formed, will not define your worth. They will reflect how far you've come. If someone from the past reappears, your task is not to repeat the pattern, but to notice the shift. Notice how you no longer shrink to keep the peace. Notice how you no longer confuse chaos with chemistry. You're not the person who used to wait to be chosen. You are the person who chooses consciously, compassionately, courageously. The Knight of Cups, while hidden beneath the surface, holds an invitation. Not necessarily for romantic fulfillment, but for emotional purity. This energy is gentle, sincere, and deeply felt. If someone approaches you in the coming days with kindness, with emotional honesty, or with a willingness to see you, truly see you, pause before you armor up. Because not everyone is coming to take. Some come to remind you that not all love asks you to bleed for it. In this time, your healing becomes your magnetism. Your wholeness is what calls in resonance. But to truly allow connection, you must speak from where it matters most, your truth. Speak your feelings, not to gain control, but to set yourself free. To release attachment to the outcome is to embody real vulnerability. And vulnerability, contrary to the stories you've been told, is not weakness. It's clarity. It's presence. It's the willingness to let love shape you without letting it undo you. If you're currently in a relationship, this is a moment to sit with honesty. Ask yourself, am I loving this person from a place of presence or from a place of pain? Am I hoping they'll complete a story I haven't fully grieved? Sometimes, we stay out of loyalty to who we used to be, rather than who we've become. But love isn't a contract you sign once and forget. It's a living agreement that must evolve as you do. Let this be the time where you return to truth, not just yours, but the shared truth between two hearts. And if there's someone in your life right now, this is a gentle invitation to deepen connection, not through doing more, but by revealing more. Less fixing. More seeing. Emotions are not meant to be controlled. They are meant to be witnessed. In the same way that a flower opens when the sun rises, your heart, too, knows when it's safe to bloom. But it cannot open if it's holding its breath. So ask yourself gently, who is walking into your life right now? Are they mirroring a fear you've yet to release? Or are they reflecting back a readiness you've just begun to own? Healing isn't a destination, it's a returning. Returning to the place where love is no longer performance, but presence. And this, Leo, is where love becomes a choice made in light, not in shadow. There is a certain kind of fire that lives within you, Leo, the kind that doesn't ask for permission to burn. It's radiant, magnetic, alive. But even fire, no matter how divine, needs breath. It needs rhythm. And in this particular window between July 26th and 28th, the cosmos is reminding you that your flame was never meant to consume you. It was meant to guide. When the sun's energy intensifies as it does now, especially with Leo in the spotlight, there's a heightened push to do more, express more, lead more. You may feel the surge of momentum pressing against your chest, urging action, recognition, movement. And yet, paradoxically, this is exactly when the body begins to whisper, slow down. Regulate. Listen. There's a teaching here that mirrors the natural cycles of life, that rest is not the opposite of creation, but the condition for it. The flower doesn't bloom all year, the moon doesn't stay full. Why should you? Your body is the temple of your light. And during these high vibrational days, it becomes more than a vessel, it becomes an instrument of clarity. But for clarity to arise, the system must be balanced. This is where your daily choices matter more than you realize. Not because they produce immediate results, but because they harmonize the current of energy flowing through you. Think of your body as a riverbed. When clear, energy moves easily. When clogged, even the most beautiful intentions can't take root. This is why nourishment becomes a sacred act. Foods with cooling properties, aloe, citrus, cucumber, aren't just beneficial for the physical body. They regulate the fire within. They soften the edges, steady the pulse, invite presence. When you nourish yourself with awareness, you're not just feeding cells, you're honoring the rhythm of the universe as it moves through you. You're reminding yourself that care is not indulgence, it's responsibility. And movement, too, becomes a prayer. Practices like Surya Namaskar, the sun's salutation, aren't just physical postures. They are meditative flows designed to align you with solar energy without being overwhelmed by it. Morning sunlight meditation, even 5 minutes of stillness with the sun on your face, helps you receive that life force in a measured way. You don't need to conquer the day. You need to commune with it. Even rest, which can feel like surrender, is its own kind of power. Choosing to pause intentionally, to detach from performance and return to center, is an act of sovereignty. It reminds the mind that you are not your output. You are not your busyness. You are not your public image. You are something subtler, and that part of you deserves quiet, too. In fact, the more stillness you create internally, the more receptive you become to guidance that isn't coming from noise, but from wisdom. Color becomes another tool for alignment. Gold activates the crown, helping to dissolve self-doubt and elevate you into a space of calm authority. Royal purple wraps your intuitive centers in a protective field, allowing insight to flow without interference. Ruby red, rich and grounding, reawakens your drive, but not from urgency, from clarity. Together, these frequencies help you embody the full spectrum of your fire, bright but not blinding, strong but not forceful. When you treat your body as sacred, your energy becomes clear. And when your energy is clear, your path becomes obvious. So perhaps the most radical thing you can do during this season of power is not to push harder, but to care more gently. Not to add more, but to listen deeper. Not to prove your light, but to preserve it. Because when your body, mind, and spirit are in union, even silence speaks on your behalf. And in that space, Leo, your true radiance returns not as a performance, but as a presence. You've come this far not because you forced the path, but because you listened to something quieter than the noise, something deeper than the surface of what others could see. And now, as you stand at this energetic edge, there's one more truth asking to be felt. You are no longer chasing your destiny. You are walking beside it. The numbers showing up in your field 818, 611, 171 are not just coincidences. They are reflections of harmony between your inner readiness and the external timing of life. When 818 appears, it signals the end of a cycle of limitation and the beginning of empowered action. It's the moment where vision meets momentum. 611 brings clarity, the inner alignment of thought and heart. It's a gentle whisper from the universe that says, what you're imagining is already imagining you. And 171 is the energy of trust, not blind belief, but embodied knowing that your next step will always appear, even if the full staircase remains unseen. These numbers don't guarantee comfort. They remind you that discomfort, too, is a form of growth. Just as a seed must split to become a tree, so must you allow something old in you to give way to something new. That could be a belief, a pattern, a role you've outgrown. When you let go of what once kept you safe, you give yourself permission to become who you were before fear took root. And still, even with all the signs, the courage to say yes to your future often comes wrapped in trembling. So if you're afraid, you're not failing, you're feeling. And that feeling is proof that something meaningful is near. The fear you feel is not a stop sign. It's an invitation to engage with life more honestly. There's a quiet kind of bravery in doing what scares you before you feel completely ready. And that's the doorway this moment is opening. Try this. Take out a piece of paper and write down one thing you fear. Not to fight it, but to befriend it. Let it know you see it, and still, you will move forward. Write down one invitation you'd like to receive from life, from someone, from your future. Fold that paper gently, and place it where morning light can touch it. Let the sunlight charge your intention with clarity. You don't have to know when or how it will arrive. You just have to choose to be open when it does. Sometimes destiny doesn't speak in thunder. It speaks in symbols. In chance meetings. In sudden clarity. In a conversation that lingers longer than it should. In a breath that feels lighter than the one before it. Pay attention to what repeats. To what resonates. To what pulls you closer without needing words. That's how your next chapter often begins, not with a plan, but with a pull. So if you feel something stirring, name it. And if you're ready, share it. Leave a comment below. What is the invitation you're waiting for in these next 3 days? Be specific. Be bold. Because naming it isn't just declaring it to the world, it's declaring it to yourself. And self-declaration is the first act of self-creation. You don't need more signs. You've already seen them. What you need now is presence and the gentle bravery to meet your life where it's calling you. Because it is calling. Not louder than before, but clearer. And when you stop asking whether you're ready and begin responding as if you are, everything begins to shift. Not instantly, but inevitably. And now, as this message draws to a close, I want to gently remind you of what you've always known deep down, that the offer coming your way is not meant to test your worth, but to help you remember it. You are not being asked to chase after recognition, prove your value, or seek validation from a world that often forgets its own light. What's approaching is not a challenge, but a calling, a quiet yet powerful confirmation that you were never behind, never too late, never forgotten. You were simply being prepared. All that effort you made when no one was watching. All the healing you did in silence. All the nights you stayed loyal to your dreams even when they felt far away. Those moments mattered. And now, they are returning to you not as memories, but as momentum. But here's what I hope you remember: no matter how big the opportunity, the shift, the invitation may appear, you are the one who will choose how it lands in your life. You are the one who gives it meaning. And in that knowing, you reclaim your power. Because no one else gets to define your timing. No one else can decide the shape your destiny takes. And no one, truly no one, can dim your light unless you hand them the switch. So I ask you, not from a place of pressure, but from a place of possibility. What would it look like if you walked forward as if you were already chosen? What might shift if you stopped asking for signs and started acting as one? Who would you become if you let yourself be led by courage, not by delay? You see, the greatest transformations often begin with a whisper. A sentence you write down and tape to your mirror. A small yes said under your breath. A moment of stillness where you decide, for once, to stop waiting. Maybe that moment is now. Maybe this video found you for that exact reason. So take a breath. Feel where this message has landed in your body. Let it settle. Let it stir. And if it speaks to something real in you, don't let that truth slip away quietly. Anchor it. Name it. Act on it even in the smallest of ways. And if you're ready to say yes to that deeper part of yourself, I invite you to write a few simple words in the comments. I'm ready to receive what is destined for me. Not for algorithm. Not for show. But as a declaration to yourself, and a signal to the universe that you are listening, and that you are open. Thank you, from the deepest place in my being, for sharing this space with me. Your presence, your energy, your light, it matters here. Every like, every comment, every moment you choose to engage is a ripple that carries this work further, and I am endlessly grateful for the chance to walk this path with you. So if this message resonated, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Eternal Mindfulness, and share it with someone whose light deserves to be reminded of its purpose. Remember, this isn't the end of your journey. It's the doorway. And on the other side of that doorway is a version of your life more vibrant, more authentic, more aligned than you've ever imagined. Now go. Not to wait for the right moment, but to become it.